Every once in a while, a machine transcends the constraints of time and taste to become a modern-day legend, and Honda's Super Cub is just such a machine. From its humble beginnings back in 1958, the Super Cub AKA Honda 50 or Honda C100 has, according to sales numbers, grown into the most popular motorcycle. Ever back in 2018, the line passed the 100 million unit mark. The company was about a decade old when it struck gold with the Super Cub. Like so many other marques, Honda was able to capitalize on the needs of people living in a war-torn infrastructure and arguably help the island nation recover from the lingering aftermath. Part of the charm is the fact that it's almost completely enclosed, similar to a scooter, but was in fact a motorcycle proper. The design team set about the business of building a bike with enough bodywork to hide all the unsightly innards and underpinnings, while making it easy to mount and ride. Leading link front suspension uses non-telescopic forks to mount the front wheel, with a high-mount, full-size front fender that rocks high sides to leave the front wheel mostly exposed in profile. Up top, a cyclops headlight lights the way with bar-mount blinkers and tall mirror stems. But all the rider protection comes from the scooter-like legguard that keeps the spray off the rider's lower legs. In another scooter-tastic move, the fuel tank area gives way to cut-out step-through area that makes for easy mounting and dismounting. A stock solo seat and luggage rack finish out the flyline, though back in the day the accessory catalog offered options for riders who prefer to share the fun with a friend. In the looks department, it's really kind of amazing how faithful the newly released Super Cub looks like the original. Side by side, it's difficult to tell the difference between the old and the new at a glance, and not only is that a testament to the original design, it shows an unshakable confidence on the part of Honda in its own work. I love classic-looking machines, and the fidelity I see here is remarkable. In spite of its status as a proper motorcycle, the Super Cub runs with a rather compact wheelbase at only 46.3 inches long. It's built around a proper underframe, even though you can see neither hide nor hair of the structure, and a stamped and welded sheet metal swing arm finishes out the standing structure with dual shocks to support the rear end. The suspension is non-adjustable, but the shocks come with a color-matched shroud that keeps it looking as dressed and finished as the rest of the machine. It was the 1950s. So the drum brakes should come as no surprise, but what is surprising is the fact that the 2019 and 2020 release still uses a drum out back. No doubt this was done for aesthetics, and while I'd normally rag on antique tech like that, I admit that the 240-pound curb weight on the new bike is well within the means of the old shoe-type brake. The new version rocks a disc up front, and comes complete with abs, something that had yet to be even dreamt of back in the day. The early engine in the Super Cub was another ambitious project for the fledgling factory. It was a 49cc four-stroke built for a market that was dominated by two-cycle mills, and it put out a modest 4 horsepower at 7,000 RPM with 3 pounds-o grunt at 4,500 revolutions per minute. Compare that to the new C125 that generates 9.7 or 8.4 respectively. Bore and stroke mic out at 39mm and 41.4mm respectively, and the engine relies on air cooling to carry away the waste heat. That is still true on the latest versions of the engine, and it definitely contributes to the old-school chops the C125 brings to the table. Pushrod valve actuation was the order of the day on the original mill, and that remained true for about half a decade, at which point Honda switched to the overhead cam that is still used to this day. Naturally, this reduces the reciprocating mass in the top end for safer operation at high revolutions. Power flowed through a 3-speed transmission and chain-type final drive to turn in a top speed in the mid-40s, and the new C125 bumps that up to something in the 50s, depending on load and conditions. The Cub in all its different forms went on to sell over 50 million units and is still in production today. It's not only the most successful motorcycle in history, but it is also the highest-selling motor vehicle in history, financing Honda's global domination of motorbikes for over half a century and making them the biggest engine producer in the world. Motorizing the population of Asia and selling millions of cheap and reliable hacks to America and Europe bankrolled Honda's racing successes, from Phil Reed on the island to Fast Freddie Spencer on the world stage. It financed innovative research and design which was to produce some of the aforementioned iconic bikes of the century, but the humble C100 is not iconic, it's seminal.